Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming live from Mesa in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling tune-up Tuesday today. It's a day about where we take things and we give them a tune-up, be it a small tune-up, just a little tweak, or a major overhaul. It has been an awesome, awesome day. Zeffy got to meet an Australian kelp called Brandy, who actually lives 2 sites behind us. So that's kind of cool. So she was all over that, and that dog was bigger than her. She's like 20. Zeffy's like 35 pounds. This dog is probably 50. So not much bigger than her, but definitely bigger than her. And they had a blast running around the dog park and just playing and having a great time. And I love it when there's bigger dogs around, because the smaller dogs, I've noticed that the owners with the smaller dogs tend to avoid the dog park when I'm there with Zeffy, because Zeffy is just a little rough on the play side of things. So she needs those bigger dogs so she can have that type of play that she likes and enjoys. So I kind of feel sorry for Zeffy, because she sees the other dogs there and she knows them and she's like crying out for them, and the owners do this, turn around and walk away or walk past or stop and let them sniff through the fence, but won't bring their dogs in. So so now she's got an Aussie kelp that she can play with, and she's not as rough with the bigger dogs as she is with the smaller dogs, because the smaller dogs, she literally runs over top of them and then she tries to mount them, and I keep telling her she doesn't have the right equipment for that, and even if she did, that wouldn't work. But, yep, it does. So the bigger dogs kind of keep her a little more a little calmer. We also got to use her new lead today, and her new lead is a 15-foot wire leash for when we're outside with a vinyl cover over it. It's a lot lighter than the black 30-foot one that we've been using, and of course I had to like always judge the length that we used on that, but put her on the 15-foot one. It is awesome because it's perfect length for her for around here. I had it attached to the tow bar piece at the back this afternoon while I was emptying the tanks, and then we brought it around here to the front, hooked her up to the step like I normally do, and gave her present from yesterday, which was her hexagonal octagonal Kong shaped thing that has ribs down the side that you can actually put the little Kong paste stuff into, or toothpaste into there, or some other paste type food stuffs in there, and then you can stuff the inside. So she was very happy to get that and play with that, and she just had a blast out there. I read one of the magazines from my huge pile of magazines while she did that, and then the neighbor came over. It was really funny because the neighbor came out and he makes this little clicking noise, and she stops, pauses, looks around, looks over at his carport, and is like really like concentrating. And then she suddenly turns back to a Kong and starts eating it again, and because his place was behind her. And so then he walks out a little more into the light and starts making the clicking noise again. And she turns, she looks at him, wags her tail, and then turns back to eating her Kong. Well, normally when she sees him and he makes that noise, she makes a beeline for him straight away with her back end going, and then she'll sit pretty until he gets close, and then her back end lifts up a little bit and starts wriggling again, and she is so funny. And then it wasn't until he walked across the road that she turned around and went towards him, and then sat and got her treat from him. So we had a good conversation with him while we were doing that, and then we had to come inside to get on a call. And she played with that Kong ball thing for over an hour, which is longer than she normally plays with the Kong. And now she's asleep in her crate. She wore herself out. But I started the genealogy class today, and it's basically reading the different chapters from this manual, doing these practice tests, and then when I've read my way through the whole manual, there's assignments that you get each week. It's 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how fast you read. Although it can take you up to 12 weeks or something, and I'm also like, okay, if you're reading 2 chapters a week, what's the problem? I did send it over to Kinko's today to get it printed, and double side print, as well as holes punched in, just in black and white, no color stuff. And I also got the course syllabus, which was like 33 pages, because the manual's like 251 pages, and they only sent it to an electronic copy. For somebody like me, that electronic copies for textbooks just don't work. I need to be able to pull out my highlighters, my colored pens, my post-its, write notes in the margin, flag things. Yes, you can do it online and all that, but it doesn't stick in my head as well. I got to feel the paper. It's how I learn. I think I got the first page of the manual read today. That's all I got done, because it's all I could stand looking at and I managed to pull the PDF into my Kindle, so I could, if I needed to, type notes, highlight stuff. But it's too fiddly. It's too fiddly for me. And I got the first page read. That was it. So I sent that off to Kinko's to get double-sided, 3-hole punched, because I've got a binder here that I can take the stuff out that's already in there, that I can take the stuff out because it's old client stuff, and I can put the stuff into there. And then the course syllabus is like 33 pages because it's got practice tests on there, and then the link that you got to go to get the final test. So after I've done all the chapters, all the reading stuff, and I've done the practice tests and everything, then I can order, go ahead and let them know I'm ready to do the final test. And you just got to get a 60% pass mark. You got 50 multi-choice questions. Is it 50 multiple choice questions? And you got 90 minutes to do it. So not really a lot of time to do open book if you wanted to do an open book, unless you've got really good notes and you know exactly where everything is. But I like to go from memory a lot on that stuff, and so you got a 60% pass mark is the passing mark, but I want to do more than that. So I will probably study the manual a few times and take the tests a few times, just to get comfortable with them before I go and do the final test. So I just got notification that my print order is done, and so it will be delivered tomorrow. So I got them to deliver it. They said it is packed up, it has shipped. And believe it or not, the Kinko's is like 2 miles down the road. But because of this whole mask thing, I have no way to get there. I can't wear a mask, so that's just not happening. So it's worth getting it delivered here. It would have been a nice walk for Zeffie and I, but once I got there, I would have required a mask to get in, and I'm sort of like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Plus, it would take us about an hour to walk there, and then we had to walk back here again, and we were in the high 80s today. So, yeah, that wasn't happening. If it was in the 60s, there was a good possibility that that could have happened. We could have walked down there and picked it up and dealt with the mask issue and told them, well, can you bring it out here and put it on and put it right there so I can pick it up, put it in my backpack, and walk back again? Because one, I would have had a dog with me, and two, if they required me to wear a mask and I don't wear a mask, they're going to have to bring it out. I would have stood in the doorway and go, hey, I'm here to pick up this order. Can you bring it on out? Or I would have called them to let them know I was outside. And if they could bring it out, I would appreciate it. So had it been a lot cooler today, I would have considered walking down there to pick it up. But because of the temperature, you're not going to do that. Actually, it would have been a really good walk. So it would have been a 4-mile round trip walk. So it would have taken us a couple of hours. Maybe a little longer, because we would have dawdled along the way. And the other thing is too, is it would have been my first time having Zeffie walking along a main road as well, because everywhere I've walked her, it's always been in campgrounds, around dog parks. I have walked her on the streets before, but it has been in urban streets, in residential areas, not on a busy not on a busy road in a commercial area. So that would have been an interesting walk. And I also like to have her on my left side as well, which meant she would have been against the roadside, which means I would have had to figure out how to walk her on my right side so she wouldn't have been out against the towards the on the curb edge there. But it still would have been a good walk. So I will get the printed copies tomorrow. Yay! And get into that. I did a little more research today on some other things that are on my to action list. And then I was having a great Zoom with my friend Laura Fox today, and she gave me a brilliant idea. Now, I have always talked about when you are talking with family members and stuff, to record the sessions. If you're talking to family members about family history, family stories, you want to get them on record, ask them questions. We have a list of questions that if you sign up for one of the subscription services that we have for the Do-It-Yourselfer Family Tree and Genealogy program, then you will get a list of these questions. I think it's like 100 questions on that list. It's either 50 or 100, I can't remember which. But there's very good questions in there to help you talk with family members and interview them. And we're talking about when you go to do the interview, make sure you have pen and paper with you. You have a digital recorder with you. It works, and I always say a digital recorder rather than your phone, because the digital recorder will stop if phone calls and stuff come in. I mean, the voice memo thing on your phone will stop when notifications come in, when the phone rings, all of that sort of stuff. And some phones you've got to restart it, some phones you don't. So if you're doing like a digital recorder, then you don't have to worry about if a notification comes in that you're going to ignore, it's not stopping the recording. And then also have a video camera going as well. So you're getting facial expressions, you're getting them into the story and telling it. So you've got that facial expression captured. You've got the voice recording that's going on as well. You can get it transcribed for pennies. There's a whole bunch of different transcription services around where you can get it transcribed, so you can go through, take the notes out and all of that sort of stuff. And then Laura turns around to me and she says, well, and she was talking about how she gets together with her family twice a week with her siblings and her parents, and they talk on Zoom. And she's talking about how, it would be great to be able to record some of them when they're talking about family stories and stuff. And I'm like, boom! I'm like, why the hell did I not think of that before? Here we are all stuck in COVID. People are talking about not being able to connect with different relatives and stuff. Why not get on a Zoom with them, record the Zoom, and get them telling stories? So, Laura, thank you for opening my eyes to something that was right in front of me. Something I am doing I'm doing many times a day, is sitting on Zoom things. Some calls are recorded, some are not. But if I'm sitting there talking with family members and we're interviewing them, why not record the Zoom? I'm like, that was brilliant. So Laura, thank you. You don't have to worry about having the digital recorder, but you still have the pen and paper because you need to take notes about what you need to go back and check and verify and all of that sort of stuff. And you can also still have the voice recorder going as well. I've got the Zoom that will record. I also have a voice memo thing on my laptop, and I quite often will have that going. We'll quite often record things on the voice memo thing on my laptop, and then I go back and listen to it, because sometimes the Zoom session may not be recorded for whatever reason. That way, if anything happens to the Zoom session, I have a backup. Plus, I also have notes that I have taken as well, and I use both. I record both the Zoom and use the voice memo thing on my laptop when I am interviewing clients as well. That way, and I always get their permission, and I get their permission recorded. So everything is started with recording, and then I say, okay, as part of my thing, I like to be able to record I would like to be able to record the meeting so that I can go back and get pull out my notes at that point and verify what I have written down to make sure that we're both on the same page. And I did this with my with my travel clients as well. And I explained to them why I want to record it. And I said, I will be the only one listening to it. If you want a copy of the recording, I'm happy to send it to you. And they're sort of like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. I have never had anybody say, no, I don't want this meeting recorded. And I have never had any client turn around and say, oh yeah, I'd like a copy of that. The only one that they should get a copy on is when I do the reveal. And on Friday, when I was doing the reveal to my client about her family tree and everything, I totally and utterly forgot to hit the record button. I was like, oh my God. So what I am going to do is I'm taking a chunk of time in my calendar where I am going to turn everything off, all notifications, the phone, everything, so that I can actually get onto a Zoom session, re-record it, but without her there. So I'll still do the screen share on there so we capture all of that, and I can show her where I'm going in the tree, where she can find what information, what I found out about some of the interesting stories I found out about some of her relatives, how she's connected to some people in history, and that sort of thing, and give us some information that way, and then I can send her that recording, so it'll be a nice clean recording for her, and she will still get the same information. We just won't get her reactions to that information or the questions that she asked as well. So I'll have to remember, and then I'll just say, look, watch this through. If you have any questions, write them down, and we'll get on another Zoom, and we will actually record that one, so remind me to do that. And yes, I am doing that's on my list to do this week. I've got a chunk of time blocked out specifically to go in there and record the family tree reveal, so that she has that recording for when she goes back and looks at it. She's in the middle of moving right now, so I kind of have a little leeway there, but she's in the middle of moving, but I want to make sure that she gets that recording, that it's there for her, and we'll put it in something like Dropbox for her or something like that, so that she can access it very easily. So use Zoom to, if you can't visit older relatives and stuff, find somebody that can get them on Zoom. Get them onto Zoom, so you can sit there and you can talk with them face to face. You can ask them the questions that you want to ask them about the family tree, about the stories, what are some of the rumors in the family, what stories are true, what stories do you think are true, and that sort of thing too. So you have those recordings, and then you can, you can save those recordings. Now, I believe if you get the free account, I can't remember if you got the ability to record with the free account. I have the paid account because all my meetings go longer than 40 minutes. Because I know on the free account you can only do, I think it's up to 40 or 45 minutes that you can do. And some people say, oh, well, that's enough. But I don't know if you can record it. That's the only thing. I don't know if you can record them. But that was a fantastic idea from Laura. So Laura, thank you. Something right in front of me. So I'm going to be maybe doing some Zooms with some people back in New Zealand. So family in New Zealand, you are on notice. You may be getting on a Zoom with me to answer some genealogy questions. So now that's just opened up a whole new world. And it's because I'm so like, oh, I want to get all these stories down and everything else. Because I missed getting the stories of my grandparents and my great-grandparents. I missed getting those stories because I didn't know about that at the time. We didn't have the technology at the time. With my great-grandparents, they passed when I was like 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. So, of course, I wouldn't have got those stories anyway. I was just listening as a kid. And then with my grandparents, I was interested in genealogy at the time, but not to the depth that I have now. I mean, I had the passion there for it. I just didn't realize I was missing opportunities by being able to sit down with my grandparents and putting a cassette into a tape recorder and hitting the record button and having them talk into it. I didn't know about that at the time. So, and I know somewhere around in my storage stuff, I have a digital recorder that has stories on there from my mother-in-law when we were going through some documents from Lithuania and the Ukraine for her husband's side of the family, so Brad's father's side of the family. I just basically put the thing on record and we were in her bedroom and she had stuff spread out on the bed, and so I just put the digital recorder down in one area and we just sat there and went through all of this stuff and just talking about it, and we picked up the whole conversation with that. So somewhere in my storage unit I have a recording of that conversation. Just digital, no video, just the digital side. But there's lots of cool stories out there. So if you get on Zoom or Skype, whatever contraption allows you to record these days, get on that connection with the older relatives in your family. Ask them questions about their childhood, about growing up, about family members. Where were they born? When were they born? When and where's. When were they born? Where were they born? When and where were they born? When and where were they married? When and where did people pass away? How did they meet their spouse? How many children did they have? For example, you may think, well, they only had 4 children, but they could have actually had like 5 or 6, and they had some that died in infancy. So you want to record that information because it's part of the family history and stuff. What stories were out there? What schools did you go to? What was school like when you were there? What was the first job that you had? What was it like living wherever it was that you're living when you grew up? What was some of your favorite activities to do as a kid? If you went through World War I, or what was that like for you? Do you have stories of ancestors who fought in the World Wars or fought in the Civil War? What stories do you have about ancestors, about where they came from? When did they first come to America or New Zealand or Australia? When did they first come into whatever country you're in? Where did they come from originally? What stories do they have that they can pass down to other generations? Just get on a Zoom and just have a conversation with them. Don't go, oh, I have to answer all these questions. It's a conversation. Here, the question list is prompts. Think of them as prompts. The rest of the time is a conversation. Because as you ask them a question about something, sometimes their answer will naturally lead to another question, which leads to another question. So that's the one thing I love about when I'm interviewing people, is that I have the set questions there, and I just use them as prompts to bring us back on track. But I try to actively listen to what they're saying. So, that's an interesting fact. I want to find out more about that. So then you ask a question about whatever it was that they brought up. And you do the same thing with genealogy. If they say something that sparks, you had a great, I guess it'd be like your 3rd great-grandfather who fought in the Civil War, and now where did he fight? Well, which side of the Civil War did he fight on? Oh, well, he was on the south side. Oh, okay. Whereabouts did he live? And you can start asking other questions about him while they're still trying to think of the other whatever it was they were trying to think of. But you want to know those stories. You want to know those stories. Like I was watching Genealogy Roadshow today, and these are all replays. And one of the girls had heard of this story about her third great grandfather who had fought for the Union in the Civil War and had been captured and put into some prison and had escaped from it twice. Well, it turned out that he had been that the day he was captured was the day in Georgia they opened this. I should have written it down. This prisoner of war camp, where the Confederates opened a prisoner of war camp. He was one of the first prisoners of war. He was put in there. It was designed to hold 10,000 people, and they had over 30,000 prisoners of war in there. They had something like 1,000 people coming in a day into this thing, and then they had these like gangs that started up and started stealing stuff from fellow soldiers, like clothing and blankets and food and that sort of stuff. And her great-great-grandfather was one of her 3 times great-grandfather, it turned out, was one of the guys he was one of the good guys who led a gang to counter the bad gangs and to bring law and order into this campground. And it turned out he was actually released as a prisoner of war. He didn't escape, but he was transported off to another one where he was officially released, and then he was released from service as well. So you never know where myths and legends come from in the family sometimes, but there is, for those myths and legends, there's got to be some form of truth somewhere along the way that you've got to go find out, okay, what's that little bit that is true that we can then figure out, and we can take it from there. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Enjoy the rest of your Tune-Up Tuesday, and we will catch you tomorrow for Winning Wednesday. Yay! A day of celebration. And we will catch you then. Hei konera.